So today we're going to learn the square root method. The square root method only works when the following thing can happen. If you can take the square root of C and double it and get B. So let me say that again. This only works when you can take the square root of C. Can you take the square root of C, double it, and equal to B in the problem, okay? So can you take the square root of C, double it, and get B? That's the only time this works. And it doesn't have to equal 0, but it does. You have to be able to take the square root of C, double your answer, and get B. Now there's two types of questions that we're going to deal with today. We're going to deal with, our answer are going to be rational roots. So 1 and 2 are going to be rational roots. 3 and 4 are going to be irrational roots. Okay? So what all of these type of problems are, 1 through 4, are called perfect square trinomials. And the reason that they are perfect square trinomials is because you can take the square root of C, double that number, and get B. That's why they work. So again, these only work on something that we call perfect square trinomials. Okay? Now, how do you know what sign to put? It depends on what the sign of B is. So, in our heads, we're going to do a lot of it, but let's practice. So the first thing we need to do is we need to see if we can actually do it. So what is the square root of 36? Can we take the square root of 36? Is that a perfect square? Yes. What is the square root of 36? 6. If you double 6, do you get 12? You do. So that's perfect. So that's what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to write it up here really quick. The square root of 36 is 6. Double that, right? And you get 12. Yes, that works. So I took the square root of 36, got 6. I multiplied by 2 and got 12, so it works. So this number right here is the one we want. We want the square root of C. We're going to put X. We can go straight into it. If you say yes to it, you're going to go straight into this method. See how B is negative? That means inside my parentheses, I'm going to have a negative number. And then the square root of 36, we have already determined is 6. We're going to put that in parentheses. We're going to close parentheses, and we're going to square it. That is the nice thing about a perfect square trinomial. You guys, if you had one of these without even having to solve it, you could factor it like this. That is just it's just the method that you can use. And then we're going to set it equal to our 25. On Tuesday, I told you you really can't solve anything unless it equals 0, except if it's a perfect square trinomial. Now, how are we going to solve this? Well, it's in the method. It's called the square root property. So what that means is we're going to take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of x minus 6 squared, and I'm going to take the square root of 25. The square root property means take the square root of both sides. So the square root of x minus 6 squared is x minus 6. That's the square root of that. And the square root of 25. Well, what is the square root of 25? 5. But remember on Tuesday, if you watched the video, I told you that if you're solving and you have a square root, you're going to have two answers. So it's going to be plus or minus 5. So when you take the square root and you're solving something like this, you need to put the plus or minus there. Now we're going to add 6 to both sides. But I want you to remember, put this 6, whatever you add or subtract to the other side, put that in front, and then plus or minus 5. So you're going to have two answers. And you actually have to do that. You actually have to do 6 plus 5 and 6 minus 5. So 6 plus 5 is 11. 6 minus 5 is 1. And those are your answers. Those are your two roots. There any questions over that? Do you guys have any questions at home? No? Okay, we're moving on. Nice. Yeah. Okay, we're going to test it again. So, can you take the square root of 64? Is 64 a perfect square? Yes, it is. What is the square root of 64? 8. If you double 8, do you get 16? Okay, so the first thing I want to do, you guys, is that we did that, but I want you to change this, that 16, it was a negative 16, change it to a positive for me. So on your notes, make that x squared plus 16x plus 64 instead of minus. Okay, so we're going to have an x. We changed that from a minus to a plus because I wanted to show you. If this is a positive, then you bring a positive here. And you've already told me that the square root of 64 is 8. Now remember, you can only do this if you can take the square root of c and double it and get b. If that doesn't work, you can't do this. Now, we're going to take the square root of both sides. You don't have to rewrite the problem. You could have just put the square root over both sides, you guys. Because it's in notes, I just want to make sure you know step 1, step 2. The square root of x plus 8 squared is x plus 8 equals the square root of 49 becomes plus or minus 49. So I'm just going to move this up here. And then I'm going to subtract the 8 from both sides. X equals, now remember what I said. So I just moved it up here. So 40, now remember what I said, that negative 8, you're going to put it in the front, plus or minus 49. And okay, so does anybody know that I've already made a mistake? So indeed, I did make a mistake because the square root of 49 is not 49. The square root of 49 is 7. Okay, so now that I fixed my mistake, please go back and make sure you change that 49 to a 7. Now I'm going to do negative 8 plus 7. What is negative 8 plus 7? Negative 1. Yes, that's absolutely right. Then you're going to do negative 8 minus 7. What is it? Negative 15, and those are your answers. Remember, you guys, you're going to have two answers or you're going to have a double root. The reason you're going to have two answers is because it's x squared. It might be a double root, but you will always have two answers. Now, these are rational roots. That means that you can take the square root of that number on the right-hand side. That's why it's rational, because it's the square root. But in example 3 and 4, you're not going to be able to take the square root of that left-hand side. Of that right-hand side. So it's called an irrational number because you're going to be left with the square root. So that's the difference between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, is that these are rational roots and these are going to be irrational roots. We're going to do it the same exact way. Okay? So, can you take the square root of 16? Yes, you can. The square root of 16 is 4. If you double 4, do you get 8? Yes. You answered yes to both those questions. You can take the square root of 16. You can double that answer and get the B, so we're going to rewrite it. When you rewrite it, it's going to be x. This is positive, so it's positive inside. Remember, it's whatever the sign of b is. And then the square root of 16 is 4, and we're going to square that, and it's going to equal 20. Now there's two ways. When we get to our answer, I'm going to show you two different ways. One where you leave it in the square root form, and one where you put it in decimal form. You guys, if you were taking the SAT, they might give you one like this on the no calculator part because they want you to leave it in radical form. And then number 4, where we put it in decimal form, they would let you use your calculator for that. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing that we did with examples 1 and 2. The only difference is our final answer. So I'm going to take the square root of x plus 4 squared, and I'm going to take the square root of 20. So basically, I'm taking the square root of both sides. And again, the only reason that I can do this is because it meets that criteria of taking the square root of c and doubling it and getting b. So at the square root of x plus 4 squared is x plus 4. If you go to take the square root of 20, you would get a decimal. But you can't take it, so we're just going to put plus or minus the square root of 20. This is what we're calling an irrational root because 20 is not a perfect square. Okay, we're going to subtract that 4 from both sides. Those cancel out. And I'm going to be left with x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 20. Now, that's fine, but you are going to have to simplify the square root of 20. You have to, okay? You can't just leave it there. You have to see if there's any perfect squares. So let's just do a quick tree. I'll just do a quick tree over here. Two numbers you can multiply to get 20. Okay. 5 you circle, and then 2 times 2. So what do you have a pair of? 2's. So x equals negative 4 plus minus 2 square roots of 5. That's your final answer. When we go to do the quadratic formula, we'll probably do more with this, but that's your answer. Just as long as you have simplified the square root. You can't leave it as square root of 20. So this will be your final answer. You still have 2 answers because it's plus or minus, and that's number 3. Are there any questions over number 3? So if it's irrational, it's kind of nice because you don't have a lot to do. Okay, number 4. Can you take the square root of 9? Is 9 a perfect square? Yes, it's 3. If you double 3, can you get 6? Yes. So we're going to rewrite it, x. And is it going to be a positive or negative inside the parentheses? What's this? So it's going to be a negative. So remember, you look at your b. So look at your b. If your b is negative, then inside the parentheses it's going to be negative. You take the square root of c. In this case, it's 9. The square root of 9 is 3. And you equal to 32. It's called the square root method. So you're going to take the square root of both sides. Now, you can choose when to simplify your radical. What we're going to do is on this one, we are actually going to make it a decimal. We're going to decide to take the square root of 32. How would you know to do that? Like, that would be the question. Like, well, how would I know to leave it in radical form or decimal form? It will tell you. If it says round your answer to the nearest 100th, round your answer to the 100th place, then you know, oh, I have to make it a decimal. If it says leave in radical form, then you would leave it like this. So I would get x minus 3 equals, well, the square root of 32, if you put the square root of 32 in your calculator, you wouldn't get the plus or minus. You just have to know the plus or minus. It would be 5.66. just like I did before, I'm going to add 3. I would add or subtract. These cancel out. I'm left with x equals 3 plus or minus 5.66. Now this one you have to do just like it was a rational number, you guys. It's a decimal, but it would be a rational number. So x would equal 3 plus 566, which is 866. And then it would also equal 3 minus 5.66, which is negative 2.66. Now we only have one more thing to do, and it's pretty simple. So what we're going to do is, you know how we took the square root of c to find b, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to work backwards. We're going to take half of b and then square it to get c. It is almost time to go, so let's just see if we can do this. So I'm going to take half of b. So half of b is 2, because my b is 14. I'm sorry, my b is 14, so I'm going to take half of 14. I'm going to get 7. And then I am going to square 7 to get what? What is 7 squared? 49. That goes there. I want to do another one. Okay, so we're finding out what C is. To find out what C is, you're going to half B. Take the half of B, and B is 18, so we're going to divide that by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. And we're going to square 9, and we get 81. So our answer, so our C would be 81, and we would write it as x squared plus 18x plus 81. You guys, so over here, my C is 49. So again, take half of B, square it, and that's your C. Half of B, square it, that's your C. We'll finish the other half of these notes on Monday. Thanks, guys, and have a great day. Have a great weekend. Bye.